Hello friends, how are you doing? Welcome to our weekend preview video for May 18th and 19th. We're stepping into a week where we're going to be teaching on the topic of integrity, and specifically epic integrity. Should be good. And we're in the series called Legendary Character. So we're just using a whole bunch of really awesome adjectives to really describe the things, the behaviors, and the life that we're called to live as Christians. And I was thinking about the lesson this week and wrestling with how are we going to teach integrity to kids. And for some reason, there was like a mental block that was going on in my mind in regards to how are we going to teach this. And to be honest, I was really kind of stressing out about it. Probably shouldn't have been, but I was. And something came to my mind that I wanted to share with you guys that I hope is encouraging and I hope is something that inspires you guys as you teach this week and more importantly, as you teach throughout the time that you're leading people towards Jesus. And that was this. That's this idea that as I was walking through this lesson and I was focusing on what are the topics, what are the scriptures, what's the emphasis of what we're going to teach these kids, focusing more on what's the word I'm looking for? The content of what it is that we're going to teach the kids. I was reminded of something that I was read in 2 Corinthians over the past couple weeks. And it was in 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verses 2 and 3. And it says this. It says, "You yourselves are our letter, written on our hearts and known and read by everyone. You show that you are a letter from Christ, the result of our ministry, written not with ink, but with the Spirit of the living God, not on tablets of stone, but on tablets of human hearts." And that to me was such a powerful reminder because it really what it did is it freed me up, and it also reminded me of the value and the importance of what we do within the context of small groups every single week. We focus on the content, which is the lesson, but we forget that we are the lesson. That we are the lesson, that our lives are the lesson of what God is going to use to instruct and lead these kids towards Jesus. And so the important thing every single week as we engage these kids is the reflecting and going through the topic and knowing what it is that we're talking about is so valuable. I don't want to overstate that. But the big thing that we must focus on is just really, are we living our lives committed to Jesus? Are we living our lives following Jesus and pursuing Jesus and in community helping other people around us follow Jesus? And it's a challenge. There's no doubt about it. There's a struggle, but the importance of how we connect with these kids is going to be communicated most vividly through our lives and through our character. We are the letter that God is using to communicate His love and His truth to these kids. So that's something I just want to share real quick, but I wanted to also just then not negate what I just said, but then dive in a little bit to the lesson of what we're going to be talking about in small groups, which is focusing on the topic of epic integrity. And this idea of epic integrity within the context of legendary character is this. Epic and legendary, these words, all they're for is to point kids to the reality that we can't have integrity that's epic, or we can't have character that's legendary without the presence of God in our lives. And that's what this is all about. Integrity, in the context of just understanding the word, is about doing what's right, and it's based on doing what's right, understanding what is your standard for right and wrong. And epic integrity is doing right based on what God says is right and wrong. And so choosing that. And this is such a valuable thing for us as we teach kids, because it's in the verse that we're going to be using this week in Proverbs 10, it's easy to focus on the behavior and focus on just the outcome of what's happening. But the reality is that integrity is trying to connect us with something bigger than just a behavior. It's trying to connect us with something bigger and a narrative that's happening throughout the Bible, as opposed to just a solution to how we gain more favor with God or a better life. It's about knowing God, and that's what all this stuff is about. It's about knowing God, and it's really the difference between what moralism is, which is doing the right things for the outcomes, and the gospel, which is about receiving an identity. And so we choose that. We know it's more than just doing what's right for the result, which is what moralism is. It's about doing what's right in response to a relationship, which is what the gospel is all about. And so as we teach kids about integrity, as we focus on that this week and emphasize that in our small groups, I really want to encourage you guys, point them towards the importance and the reality of wisdom, which reminds us that, hey, there is a response. When we live one way, there's going to be behavior, and there's going to be things that come about from the choices that we have. But the reality is we're not living our life for the outcomes. We're not living our lives for the gifts that come with that behavior. We're living our lives to be in relationship with the gift giver, and to know the God who has called us into relationship, the God who lived out what true integrity looks like. And so that's going to be as it is every week, but specifically in this series, when we're focusing on behavior and we're focusing on things that are good things, but without the context of knowing the gospel and knowing Jesus and the redemptive power of who he is and knowing him first, then none of this other stuff is going to matter. We can have the best integrity and we can have the best character, but without Jesus, we're still lost. And that's so important that we remind these kids that we need to know Jesus first and then allow Jesus' character to start to change our lives. And then the response is that the outcomes will come, and we'll be able to have the gifts, knowing that we can have the gifts without them being able to crush us and control us and control our identity. And so that's my hope. I'm sorry for this really long video. I'm sorry for that preachy kind of thing that was going on there, but I hope that it inspires you. I hope that reminds us about the bigger picture of what we do each week when we teach kids about Jesus. We're pointing them to him, and we're not pointing these kids to a better life of just behavioral modification. We're pointing them to a relationship with Jesus, and that's what this is all about. So that's what we're going to be talking about this weekend. That's what we talk about every single weekend. I hope that this inspires you. I hope that it encourages you, and it's the greatest message in the world, and we get a chance to go out and live it in our lives and share it with these awesome kids who God loves and God created. So thank you for doing this. I'm excited to lead with you guys this weekend, and as we point kids to Jesus, I pray that he will honor that, and he will help us to see a harvest of kids coming to know and experience him. Love you guys. See you this weekend. Talk to you later.